You think you've seen disturbing history before, but these facts hit differently. They're real, documented moments that left people shaken long after they happened. Don't skip number 8. You don't want to miss the 72-second radio signal coming from deep space. Let's begin. Number 1. The man struck by lightning 7 times. Roy Sullivan, a park ranger in Virginia, was struck by lightning 7 times over 34 years. A Guinness World Record nobody wants to break. Each strike left him with new injuries: burned hair, damaged nerves, torn clothing, and scars that never fully healed. One bolt shot through the metal in his hat. Another blew off his toenail. One set his hair on fire while he was standing inside a watchtower. Sullivan once said he could feel lightning looking for him whenever storms rolled in. He survived every strike but lived in constant fear of the next one. What makes his story so disturbing is that no one ever found a biological or scientific reason for why lightning kept finding him. He wasn't magnetic or electrically unusual, just a man whose job put him in the worst places at the worst moments. As a ranger in Shenandoah National Park, he spent his days on mountaintops, inside poorly grounded watchtowers, driving exposed mountain roads, and patrolling open trails. In other words, he lived his life in lightning's front yard. Number 2. The Catacombs of Paris. Beneath the streets of Paris lies a sprawling underground ossuary, stretching for over 320 kilometers of tunnels, holding the remains of more than 6 million people. The bones were not originally buried there. They were transferred underground in the late 18th century, when city cemeteries became dangerously overcrowded, leading to disease and structural collapses. Tons of human remains were moved at night in covered wagons and carefully stacked in geometric wall patterns made of skulls and femurs. Long corridors were turned into bone-lined chambers where the dead were arranged like architecture. Number 3. The Ghost Lights of the Marsh. For centuries, people traveling through European marshlands reported seeing strange blue flames floating through the fog at night. These eerie lights were often thought to be the spirits of the dead, guiding or tricking travelers into the swamp. Later, science explained that these ghost lights are caused by gases released from the decomposition of plants, animals, and even people in the swamp. As organic matter breaks down, gases like methane can rise and catch fire, creating the blue flames. Although the mystery was solved, the ghost lights still spark curiosity and are often seen in places with a dark history of deaths or battles. Number 4. The River That Caught Fire. The Cuyahoga River in Cleveland, Ohio became so polluted during the industrial boom of the 19th and 20th centuries that it was more chemical than water. Factories dumped oil, gasoline, metal waste, and toxic sludge directly into the river for decades. By the mid-1900s, a thick layer of industrial oil floated permanently on the surface. In 1936, 1952, and most famously in 1969, sparks from passing trains or nearby machinery ignited the river itself. Flames moved across the surface while the water underneath continued to flow. One fire reached flames several stories high and caused millions in damage. Number 5. The town swallowed by mud. In 2006, the Lucy mud eruption in Sidoarjo, Indonesia, saw a massive underground mud volcano burst through the ground beneath residential neighborhoods. Unlike a typical eruption, the boiling gray sludge spread steadily, swallowing streets, schools, and homes. Families watched as it rose through floors, drains, and walls, burying everything in its path. The eruption lasted for years, displacing over 40,000 people and covering entire villages. The cause was initially linked to a blowout from a natural gas well drilled by PT Lapindo Brantas, though some experts suggest a distant earthquake may have triggered the disaster. Number 6. The Man Preserved by Ice. In 1991, 2 hikers in the Alps stumbled upon the body of a man frozen in a glacier, later identified as Ötzi the Iceman. He was about 5,300 years old, making him one of the best preserved human remains from prehistoric times. His body, organs, and even tattoos were remarkably well preserved, offering an incredible look into life during the Copper Age. Scientists analyzed his stomach contents, revealing his last meal of grains and meat. Ötzi also had several healed wounds, suggesting he was recovering from injuries before his death. With a deep gash on his hand, it's believed he may have died from a violent encounter or exposure before being preserved by the ice. Number 7. The Fog That Killed 12,000 People. In December 1952, London was blanketed by a thick, toxic fog caused by industrial pollution and coal burning. The mist, known as the Great Smog of London, lasted for several days, suffocating residents. Visibility dropped to near zero, and the air became so toxic that pedestrians collapsed in the streets, and people died in their homes from inhaling the fumes. Hospitals were overwhelmed with respiratory patients, and it's estimated that up to 12,000 people died as a result. The disaster prompted significant changes in air quality laws, leading to the Clean Air Act of 1956. Number 8. The signal from space that never repeated. In 1977, astronomers at the Big Ear Radio Telescope in Ohio detected a powerful 72-second radio signal coming from deep space. The signal, which came to be known as the WOW signal, was unusually strong and seemed to come from a point in the sky near the constellation Sagittarius. The signal's intensity was so high that it couldn't be dismissed as typical background noise, but despite multiple attempts to detect a repeat, the signal never came again. While scientists believe there's an explanation for the signal, it has never been definitively proven, leaving the WOW signal as an unresolved enigma in the history of space exploration. Number 9. The hospital that kept moving after it closed. Baylitz Heilstätten, an abandoned tuberculosis sanatorium in Germany, became infamous for strange occurrences after it was shut down. Motion sensors triggered movement in empty rooms, and microphones picked up unexplained footsteps echoing through the halls. Engineers found no logical explanation, no animals, air currents, or structural causes for the activity. Built in the early 1900s, the hospital had a dark history, serving as a military hospital during World War I, and later as a Soviet hospital. It's now considered one of Europe's most haunted locations, with some attributing the eerie sounds to lingering energy from its turbulent past. Number 10. The doll that changed positions. The doll known as Annabelle, housed in a sealed glass case at the Warrens Occult Museum, became infamous for allegedly changing positions overnight. Time-lapse footage showed slight movements of its head and limbs, despite the case being securely closed. No mechanical devices were found, and the cause of these changes was never confirmed. Some believe it's a paranormal occurrence, while others suggest environmental factors may be at play. The mystery of Annabelle's movements remains unsolved, making it one of the most chilling tales in supernatural lore. Number 11. The sinkhole that swallowed a building. In 2010, a massive sinkhole suddenly appeared in Guatemala City, swallowing a 3-story building. The perfectly circular hole, about 60 feet wide, dropped straight into ancient underground cavities. Its unnaturally smooth walls revealed deep cave systems beneath the city, suggesting the sinkhole was connected to a network of tunnels. Experts believe heavy rainfall, water infiltration, and unstable soil triggered the collapse. But the event remains one of the most dramatic geological mysteries of modern times. Number 12. The elevator that became a tomb. In 2016, residents of a building in Xi'an, China, learned that an elevator in their complex had been shut down for maintenance a month earlier. When workers finally reopened it, they made a horrifying discovery: the body of a woman who had been trapped inside the entire time. The lift had been turned off by maintenance staff on January 30th, who failed to check whether anyone was inside before cutting the power and sealing the doors. With no way to call for help and no emergency systems functioning, the woman remained trapped as days turned into weeks. The case shocked China and reignited nationwide concerns about building safety, maintenance oversight, and the treatment of vulnerable or isolated individuals living alone. It remains one of the most disturbing real-world examples of how a simple oversight can turn an everyday space into a deadly prison. Number 13. The train that stopped in complete darkness. In 2017, a New York City F train suffered a total power failure while moving between stations. The lights went out instantly, the train stopped in the tunnel, and all ventilation and air conditioning shut down. With no announcements and no mobile signal, sealed cars with rising heat and no airflow, the air quickly became thick and humid. Condensation fogged the windows, and several people became sick from the heat. After nearly an hour in darkness, rescue crews reached the train and opened the doors manually. The event became one of the most documented examples of how quickly an underground blackout can turn dangerous. Number 14. A hotel guest vanished on camera. In 2013, 21-year-old Elisa Lam checked into the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles and was later reported missing. The last known footage of her came from a hotel elevator security camera. In the video, she presses multiple buttons, steps in and out of the elevator, and moves in a way that many viewers found strange or distressed. For days, police searched the building without success. Then guests began reporting low water pressure and discolored tap water. During an inspection on the roof, workers discovered Lam's body inside one of the water tanks, a location that required climbing a ladder and lifting a heavy metal lid. Her death was ruled an accidental drowning, but investigators were never able to fully explain how she reached the tank, how the lid was closed afterward, or why she behaved the way she did in the footage. Number 15. The road that melted in a heat wave. During England's 2018 heat wave, temperatures climbed so high that several asphalt roads began to soften. In some areas, the surface reached over 122 degrees Fahrenheit, causing the bitumen to lose strength. Cars started sinking into the road, leaving deep grooves, and one bin truck tilted sideways after its wheels became stuck. Pedestrians reported their shoes sticking to the softened surface, pulling up strands of tar as they walked. Engineers later confirmed the heat had pushed the asphalt past its structural limits, forcing multiple road closures across the region. Number 16. The silent heat death apartments. During Europe's record-breaking heat waves, emergency crews began noticing a disturbing pattern in cities like Paris, Madrid, Italy, and Spain. Certain apartments went quiet for days, overflowing mail, blinds never opening, and no sound from inside. When police forced entry, they found homes that had turned into sealed heat chambers. Windows were shut for security or privacy, trapping the air inside. Indoor temperatures often climbed from 113 to 122 degrees Fahrenheit, hotter than the streets outside. What unsettled investigators most was the stillness. Nothing was knocked over, no signs of a struggle. Food sat untouched on tables, books lay open on nightstands, and TVs were frozen mid-broadcast, as if life had simply stopped. Most victims were elderly people living alone, unaware that their closed windows and drawn curtains had turned their apartments into deadly ovens. By the time authorities arrived, the silence told the whole story. Number 17. The frozen aircraft cabins. During several extreme polar vortex events in North America, flights landed safely, but passengers couldn't get off. The cold was so severe that ice sealed the cabin doors shut, freezing the mechanisms and even the jet bridges that were supposed to connect to the plane. As aircraft sat on the tarmac in -22 to -40 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures, cabin heating systems began to fail. Planes aren't built to sit motionless in that kind of cold, and interior temperatures dropped quickly. Passengers filmed frost spreading across the cabin walls, condensation freezing mid-drip on the windows, and thin ice forming on overhead bins. Flight attendants handed out blankets while people bundled up in coats and scarves, able to see their breath inside the cabin. Ground crews chipped away ice and sprayed de-icer for more than 2 hours before a door could finally be opened. Everyone survived, but the footage showed just how quickly a modern aircraft can turn into a freezing chamber. And that's it. If your curiosity is still buzzing and you want to dive even deeper into the strange, the disturbing, and the downright unbelievable, don't stop here and click the next video.